If you're not from North America, chances are when you think of NASCAR, you think of something like this. Huge super speedways where you're always on throttle, with pretty much no braking at all, in cars with the handling properties of a brick. Most Europeans can appreciate the spectacle, but many also struggle to see where the skill is. Even if they are bricks, it can't be that hard to turn left, right? Well, it turns out reality is actually the total opposite to this. Most tracks in America look like these. Short tracks that are under a mile in length and usually requiring significant amounts of braking. As a result, you can get significant differences in lap time, so it makes the skill in this discipline much more apparent. However, driving the traditional cars on these tracks will probably leave a sour taste in your mouth, as their primitive mechanics and high power rear their wild side here. That's where these come in, the SK and Whelen Modifieds. Unlike stock cars, Modifieds originally existed in a world where you could pretty much do whatever you wanted to go faster. As a result, they do kinda look like freaks of industrial nature, and look rather intimidating to beginners. The thing is, faster in short track racing typically means making a car that is friendlier to handle, and with more grip. All of the weird modifications help in that regard. Things like shifting the weight to the left and using different sized tyres on the outside help to keep the cars balanced through the corners, without overloading the outside tyres. They still retain characteristics of their more well-known cousins, as they can still snap when driven past the limit. That limit though is much softer and smoother, resulting in a car that is a good learning platform if you're a beginner, while still being playful and entertaining for the experts. So, how do you get into these anyway? Well, there's the SK Modifieds in Class D, and the Whelen Modifieds in Class C, both with fixed and open setups. They both share the same model in game, so you buy one, you get one free. The main difference is in the engines. The SK Modifieds use a low compression V8 producing just under 400 horsepower, whilst the Whelen Modifieds use a much meatier 6 litre V8 making just over 600 horsepower. The result of this is that they share a similar feel, but have different throttle sensitivities, with the SK being more forgiving of lead feet. That's why if you've never done oval racing before, you should stick to the SK, as it will give you a platform to learn throttle control, while still being forgiving enough to keep you in the race. If you're more experienced though, the Whelen should be a fun challenge that usually attracts some stiff competition. You'll also find that the race rules between the two are quite different. The SKs typically run to around 40 laps on most tracks, whilst the Whelens double that to 80. The real important thing to remember though is that the SK Modifieds do not have cautions, but do have fast repairs. This really does change the race strategy between the two series. Avoiding spinouts is perhaps much more crucial in SKs to stay on the lead lap, whereas you can get away with it a bit more in the Whelen Modifieds unless you get bad damage. Both series force you to race clean regardless, due to low incident limits and a strong sensitivity to picking up 4Xs. There's also variance in the typical schedules of the two series. Because the SKs run less power, they tend to run on ovals half a mile or under, and have even ran on Legends ovals from time to time. The Whelens on the other hand run on ovals between a half mile and 4 mile almost exclusively, with many of the classic NASCAR short tracks making the schedule. There's a decent amount of usage of free tracks in both series, with half of the SK schedule running free tracks last season. The rest tend to be tracks that are used regularly in other series, whether that's the main NASCAR series, or alternatives like the Cars Late Model Tour. So, you know what they are, but how do you win in these? Well, you gotta know how to drive smooth. Like most short track series, there's 4 phases to each corner: the brake, the trail, the set, and the feed. The brake is where you're getting most of your braking done for the corner. This does vary between the different tracks, but it can be up to 50% of your braking force. You need to make sure your wheel is relatively straight for this. If you're already turning, you'll upset the car and make a hash of the corner. You can see here that I've already aimed the car into the bottom of the upcoming turn before braking, so that I can achieve maximum braking effort whilst keeping the wheel almost straight. As you get into the corner, you'll need to wind on more steering lock, which is when you should reduce your brake down to a trail. You never want to be coasting. A trail brake here helps keep you tight into the corner and helps avoid working the tyres too much. The amount of force is pretty light, around 5 to 10%, and it's sometimes similar to the amount of force used in your main brake. As you're halfway through the corner, you immediately want to switch from the trail to the set. This is where you lift off the brake and immediately apply partial throttle. It can be as little as 5%, all the way up to 50%. Opening the throttle partially keeps the car stable in the corner as you're getting ready to exit, and helps to keep your minimum speed up. Finally, you get to the feed. As you unwind the amount of steering lock, you can start to feed in the throttle. This should be a gentle process. Stabbing the throttle with too much lock will cause a spin out as the rear tyres are too unloaded. By feeding in slowly, you'll also be able to react to the car better, as oversteer moments that happen just beyond the limit can usually be hustled back in. This is all well and good when you're on your own, but making a pass is a much different beast. Most short tracks are single grooved, which means there's just one fast racing line on the circuit, so most racing stays single file until you're trying to pass someone. It's variance in the pace that allows for a pass to happen. You only need to get a small amount of your car alongside to force your opponent off the main groove. This can just happen through raw pace throughout a lap, but it can also be manufactured using a cutback. This is where you take a wider line in the entry of a corner and then cut in to straighten up the exit. This allows you to get on the throttle earlier for that corner, first getting a run on the car in front to make a pass in the next one. However, this can sacrifice some speed on the next corner if you don't make the pass, as you'll compromise your entry line into the corner, so make sure you're close enough to make it work. And finally, your long-term race strategy is still important in these. If you're being really aggressive into the corners early on and sliding the car, you'll find that the tyres burn off quickly and you'll lose pace towards the end of the race just as you need it. This can particularly happen when you're stuck trying to constantly pass someone and just can't quite get by. It's really important to plan for the future as well as for the here and now. Think about whether or not a pass is worth the sacrifice in pace whilst you do it, for instance, as you might be better following someone and waiting for them to catch up to the leaders. Most of the strategy is on track. There isn't any pit strategy at play here. Overall then, the Modifieds are perhaps the best way to get into oval racing for a beginner. They're accessible but still have similar characteristics to the harder cars, making them a great platform to learn on. I personally have found that my road racing has also improved, as the distilled nature of short track ovals means you get to focus on your pedal technique a lot more. What do you guys think? Have you had a go at these before? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, leave a like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. I'm Half Left Toby, and thanks for watching.